For many K-pop idols, BTS are not idols people they look up to, and undoubtedly they are icons in the music industry. But see how the term idol overlaps its meaning while at the same time taking a lot from the true nature of the person. This term idol might have brought a lot of conflicting interpretations for people from the outside, but it seems like not only they were the ones who were victim to the polyphony of this term. The boys have mentioned a lot of times how this title not only weighs a lot on their shoulders, but also how they felt it doesn't define them entirely. In today's video, we'll go through different songs in their discography where they analyzed how did these two concepts manifest for them and whether BTS are idols or artists/musicians. In order not to make the wait too long, let's anticipate something. In the K-pop industry, an idol is more than simply a singer or a celebrity. It's the flawless portrayal of a person who should be well-rounded enough to be able to sing, dance, and fit in the beauty standards occasionally, but preferably also being an entertainer, performer, actor not only in movies but also to their assigned roles such as the visual, main dancer, main vocalist, and assigned personalities like the matinee call member, outgoing member, sexy member, and the list goes on. An artist, well, in our case, it would be someone who performs music or someone who creates with skill and imagination. And this definition is kind of a combined definition from what I found on the Cambridge Dictionary online. And personally, I was really surprised when I saw that the dictionary definition literally had the word perform in it, because yes, it really is an important aspect of art, and something BTS are also really meticulous and precise about. So the main difference here would be that rather than aspiring to be a representation of something, having to fit into certain parameters in order to be allowed to be on stage, an artist they just make art and that's all. Simply yet so complex in its nature, just like the BTS. Obviously, when you start with just the wish of wanting to show everything you have about something you love, but you're limited and doors are being closed in front of you because of labels, it does become frustrating. Let's not forget that BTS started as a hip hop group, the main members of at that time being Namjoon, Yoongi, and Hoseok in that order. Their debut songs are highly hip hop inspired, but with time they expanded towards pop and had to adapt to what the K-pop industry was asking from them. I used to think that maybe they could have just produced songs without having to conform to all these parameters, but they kind of had to do that in order to be fully heard and acknowledged. But looking back and seeing how eager and passionate they are about music, expanding their music genres would have soon come inevitably, and this is a point we'll come back to. But later, especially around 2016 and 2018, around the time the boys had to look back at their career because of a possible disbandment, we feel the resignation of those labels stronger and louder in the lyrics. One of the earliest songs when we see this conflict arise is an idol, while I would argue that them confirming and reinforcing the identity of rappers especially was way earlier.
Can't call me artist, can't call me idol. 아님 어떤 다른 뭐라 해도 I don't care.
When they present us this song, we see them as artists already confident in their identity and understand that this answer is a result of a long conflict that has been slowly growing and becoming more serious even during the earlier years when we look back at their old lyrics. In my opinion, the fact that they have dwelled so much on this question and were able to find an answer to it is far more important than just the answer we got in the end. It does say about the origin of their passion and love more than just the answer. Yes, maybe anyone can say that they're an artist, but how many people believe it and how many people don't take this for granted? How many artists actually wonder if they're not being too pretentious in their identity and giving themselves too much importance? Art requires humbleness and being down to earth, making sure you don't get too lost in this pressure. How BTS will mention later in another of their songs which we'll also cover in this video. In contrast, again, through these lyrics and the previous ones, we understand that unlike other people who were highly praised despite their lack of skill and artistry and were called artists for that, we can refer to Cypher Parts 2 and Part 3 if you're more curious about these lyrics and what happened during the earlier years of their career. Fans weren't even recognized for the bare minimum, so obviously their artist identity felt underappreciated. They were artists making art and no one acknowledged them. Were they the ones in the wrong? They have countless songs they produced and wrote about their love for music, such as Outer Clear, Black Swan, Louder Than Bombs, Arson, First Love, and so on. Again, all those conflicts and feelings don't arise just for the sake of showing off. Sure, you could mimic something similar, but only them know how deeply and intense they have felt both this pain and this love, and then coming forward with such statements means that they have won a serious battle they are proud over, and no one should take that away from them. Another song that encapsulates both of these themes is Dionysus, where they talk about how something in their inherent being and way of being didn't align with how they were seen. If it wasn't for their calling and their art, the question of whether they're truly artists would have never appeared, as we said before. In Greek mythology, Dionysus was the god of wine. He had a dual nature. On the one hand, he brought joy and divine ecstasy, or he would bring brutal and blinding rage, thus reflecting the dual nature of wine. And from here we also have the theme and the term Dionysian, which relates to the sensual, spontaneous, and emotional aspects of human nature. Often, in different contexts, when we talk about pieces of art which refer to the love for art and the human nature in relation to art, the one which calls for rebellion and defying human limits, we can refer to them as being Dionysiac, or the narrator being a Dionysiac being. This song, as it is about the love and passion for music and therefore art and its effects, and with also having the name of Dionysus directly mentioned, we just talk about some Dionysiac souls, but let's understand where does this come from. I really hope I pronounce this correctly, but in Korean, the term for art is yosul, which is formed of two syllables, yo and sul. And sul in Korean also means alcohol. Effectively, we now understand what namjoon meant when he said, well, art is also alcohol. You get drunk when you drink it, fool. In the context of analyzing the progression of the idol versus artist conflict in the lyrics, this song is the most suggestive and definitive one, I would say. Dionysus is born twice, first from his mortal mother's womb and then from Zeus' tide. It is said that he is born of fire and nursed by rain. After he is born from Zeus' tide, he was taken to Silenus and the rain nymphs of Mount Nysa. He crossed the boundaries between humans and gods and between life and death, a characterization of the artist process, we could say. Once again, they present their confident identity in these lyrics, the most powerful statement here being born as a K-pop idol reincarnated as an artist, because it summarizes their journey and also, instead of trying to insinuate how this label, the one of idol, might have taken things away from them, they highlight how it helped them find themselves and their identity of artists because this label initiated them into a conflict which in the end brought them to their final answer and made them confident in who they truly are, emphasizing the positive side as they always do. Now, remember when I said that Bangtan trying other genres would have been inevitable, and I don't believe it's entirely a result of them trying to fit in? Let's bring back that argument for a second. Because when talking about K-pop, we can look at it from two sides, in my opinion. First, K-pop being an umbrella term under which more genres of songs sung in Korean come under, and the other being the specific of Korean pop music, the upbeat songs and the easy to dance to songs which everyone is used to when they hear the term K-pop. But even if that, most groups are more or less focused on one genre and one concept, and they just release some songs every 5-6 months to keep the content going. While Bangtan had been so diverse with their concepts, albums, and genres, and despite this not losing their identity and message, they started with the rebellious one, always releasing political or social commentary songs in their albums, something which you would also not hear a lot about in K-pop songs usually, the ones which are really mainstream. So another thing that distinguishes them from the idol term and puts them under the identity of artists is their versatility and creative freedom and aspirations, while I would also argue that their rebellious nature further reinforces their identity of artists, but this is for another video. 2 years later, in another of his solo songs, What Do You Think? Yoongi says,
이쯤 되면은 알 필요 없지 아이돌 음악이냐는 말들에는 저도 관심이 없지.
the term idol still holds some pressure on their shoulders. We still see here a fleeting moment of that conflict of what if people don't take my music seriously just because I'm an idol? But during the release of that song, they had already established their legacy and fame was already something unshakable. We already see the confident Dan and the Bangtan who have established their identity of artists and know that beyond representing a genre and a specific industry, there's something much different and something more than that. As a side note, I believe that the presence of this conflict in their lyrics says a lot about them as artists in general and can also be brought as an argument in the old question is or isn't BTS K-pop. They never aspire to be specifically an idols or some idols. The title makes them uncomfortable and they're loud about it. And they did not only to the lyrics but also to the countless interviews where they talk about reframing toxic masculinity. And right now it comes to mind specifically that clip where Jimin talked about how much he has grown from that younger self who just wanted to look like a strong male and appeal to the public, but now he just can be himself. At the same time, however, when talking about whether BTS are K-pop or not, we should always be careful and nuanced because we, their fans, can take away what they have fought for so long. To be recognized for their music and art, to be recognized as Korean artists who make music in Korean, and who are recognized for their art and not their ethnicity, breaking huge prejudices and stereotypes. To conclude, BTS are surely artists, some of the biggest of our times, and their identity will remain unchanged despite all the different labels attached to them. Their calling, passion, and determination will push them towards bigger and bigger works of music and performances. This is all for today. Thank you for staying with me until the end, and I'm curious what are your opinions on this. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll also enjoy my video about the next cipher and the one about Blue Side where we explore the conflict between the two sides of hope in J-Hope's lyricism. See you next time.